Welcome to The Glitter Effect, a podcast dedicated to shining a light on the movers, shakers, change makers, and all-round living legends of our communities who are making a real difference. Today's guest is a powerhouse of purpose and community action. Jo Taranto is the founder of Good for the Hood, a grassroots organisation that helps individuals, councils and businesses create more sustainable, connected and resilient communities. With a background in health, sustainability and communication, Jo has turned her passion for people and the planet into a movement that empowers everyday change makers to take action where they live, work and play, which I absolutely love. Whether it's reducing waste, sparking behaviour change, or fostering neighbourhood connection, Jo's work is all about making a big impact through practical local steps. She's a community builder, a conversation starter, and a fierce believer that everyone can do something good for their hood. And today she's here to share her journey, her insights, and a little bit of her glitter with us. Jo Taranto, welcome to The Glitter Effect.
Thank you so much, Kate. What an absolute pleasure to be here.
I love everything. I can't wait to unpack all of this. I didn't know anything about Good for the Hood until I stumbled across you. I was recommended by a very good friend of mine.
It's a good name, isn't it?
I love it. It just rolls
it.
off the tongue. It's fantastic. What is Good for the Hood and what inspired you to start this brilliant movement?
So Good for the Hood is exactly as it sounds. It's doing something positive for your local area. It's as simple as starting where you are and taking some action. And in a climate crisis, in a world where we have so many problems, it's really nice to focus on achievable solutions. And so that's exactly what Good for the Hood's about. I started this 6 years ago. I registered Good for the Hood as a legal entity. So it started before that, as all good things do, but it's been 6 years now. And believe it or not, it started with my next door neighbour, which is kind of nice because it really was a neighbourhood initiative that kind of got its own traction. So it's been a weird journey, but it's still here, still going strong.
And that's how, as you say, when time's gone by, that's exactly who our community was, wasn't it? The neighbours, you knew everything. And now I'd be lucky to know possibly the name of my neighbour, let alone whether they would be there to help or not, which I think is pretty sad. But this is why I think your movement is incredible. So 6 years, that's still very new then. But your mission is all about building better, more sustainable communities from the ground up. Why, in your eyes, is this so important right now in the world right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, using myself as an example, I realized that I needed to do something because I was feeling this real, quite existential dread. I had kids and they were quite young. I was thinking about the future, as all good parents do. Mm-hmm. And I felt really troubled by the state of the world. And I think it's a bit of a trope, but that's often a time where people do change careers because they're thinking, well, what am I doing? What's my legacy? Am I making any difference to the state of the world? So I definitely had that sense, and I had been working in the corporate space for a long time, and I thought, I don't know how to move into something different, or if it is a career thing or just, a lifestyle thing that I can contribute to. So, so Good for the Hood has been deliberately focused on local actions and giving people really concrete things that they can do, so that overwhelm and that confusion in a big systemic crisis like we're facing with the climate crisis, it simplifies it so that people do take action instead of disengaging, and people do start as opposed to ignore and put your head in the sand. So it's been an antidote for my own fears and problem and challenges with the concept, which often these initiatives are as much about the founder as it is about the mission.
100%.
But it's been great because I can use that to relate to what other people are experiencing too. And this is not a unique experience at all.
And it affects everyone. So this is, like you say, it's not unique. This is everybody. It's not just a case of, oh, that's something that's going to affect me. This is everyone. So if we all rally together and do very small changes, it makes a massive, it sounds really old-fashioned saying that, but it makes perfect sense. It's very simple. Is it just you, or do you have a team?
I have a team now. My wonderful co-founder, has now actually moved into a complete environmental career and is working as an amazing conservation uh, uh, sort of bush carer, and she's out there full time doing that work. So
Awesome.
she moved out of the business, and it is a business. It's a social enterprise, but it's sort of registered as a business uh, a couple of years ago, and so it's been a bit like being left holding the baby, but it's also been something that has enabled me to continue the work and build on that. So yeah, I do have a small team. Use a lot of consultants
Yep.
as well,
Yep.
and a lot of freelancers and a lot of, to be honest, part-time mums,
Yeah.
which has been really nice. And I love working with them because, I understand that it's tough juggling all of these things as parents. So yeah, it's been great. We've got a little tribe of people who make it all happen.
That's awesome. Now, you Good for the Hood works with councils and organizations and individuals across Australia. Is that right?
Yeah, we do work across Australia. We work through councils, and there's a very deliberate reason for that. And it was exactly what I found when people start looking for what's happening in their local area, what they can do, what initiatives already exist, even what to put in the bin, they go to their council.
Yeah.
It's not always, you go there because you have something you need to find out, and it should be the source of truth for your local area.
Mm.
And so it makes sense that they provide programs which also give solutions to other challenges like electrifying a home, like water conservation, reducing waste, all those sorts of things should come from your council and do. And so we help councils provide those programs. Often we work with councils who may not be able to deliver programs to the extent that we do without us. So I guess it's a bit about simplifying the work that councils can do or
Mm.
amplifying the work they're already doing. And that often means we work with businesses or organisations as well and through the councils. And our favourite is to work with those community champions who are out there doing projects, initiatives of their own
Yeah.
that have a hyper-local focus as well.
I love that. Community champions. We need them everywhere. I think
Yeah,
that's
and
an
there's
army
so
of them.
many. There's so
Yeah.
many, Kate. It's so cool to know that in every community, even if people don't think there are, once you peel back, it's just there's always people out there at every school, every PNC, every Rotary group, every men's shed. In every business, there's generally
Mm.
someone who's taken up the mantle of being that person,
Yeah.
and they're legends.
Yeah, that's great. And you're recognizing them through this, which I love. Just just taking a little bit of a sidestep here. You said you launched 6 years ago. So you were already established just during COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about, did you see that what you were doing, because that was all about focusing on community in some respects, that because people were able to stop, weren't they, and just had
Yeah.
more time. Did you see a shift in how people were in their communities and what they were sort of starting to become more aligned to or do, or not really?
Yeah, look, I think COVID was great for some reasons. It certainly highlighted the importance of being connected to people,
Yeah.
even if you can't see them. I think it also amplified the inequalities in our community. So we know that people who had backyards, for example, or people who, were connected to green space of any kind were going to cope better
Mm.
with the lockdowns. I think it brought out the best in our communities. It definitely brought out this sense of gratitude and appreciation for what we have. It
Mm.
certainly made us aware of our impact on the world, and we could see what happens when something disrupts our systems. But and look, it was almost a little micro experiment of what the climate crisis is on a more retracted sort of
Mm.
level, because I always say one of the biggest challenges with the climate crisis is that it's a crisis over 100 years.
Yeah.
It's like having the COVID pandemic, but spread out over a really long time.
Mm.
And if someone had told me during the pandemic that, hey, in 100 years, you might have to go into a lockdown and completely change your lifestyle,
Mm.
I'd be like, cool, call me in 99 and I'll have a chat to you about it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just such a long period of time to worry about something that might happen. And so, we know that the climate crisis is changing the way we live and needs to. And I think it was an interesting experiment of how people respond to change. And most of us went, okay, give me a list of what I need to do and I'll do it. And they,
Mm.
they followed that and they were really aware that we needed to protect and look after the most vulnerable in our community.
Yeah. I think also, do you think it may have created new habits for people as well? Because I do remember sitting at home and we all saw Venice, the waterways in Venice were the clearest. It had dolphins swimming through it, and all the car park or the aeroplane car park, and all the pollution disappearing in all the big cities, and everyone was amazed at that. Even my kids, I'm like, wow, there's we have to do something. But obviously now it's gone, as you were.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
do you think people have still moved forward with some of their habits that they formed during that time, or is it just now it's just got lost in the noise of life again?
Look, I think maybe it has. I think it made people appreciate natural spaces. I really think there was a deep respect for, gosh, I'm so lucky to be able to look out my window and get some reprieve from the four walls of my house. Or,
Yeah.
gee, I appreciate going to the beach, or I love having a swim at my local river. The amount of people who talk about those experiences with just this incredible fondness for being able to go and put their feet in the grass. Like, I think
Mm.
there was that element. Yes, there was an appreciation for we can't travel, we can't do all these things. So, oh wow, look at what happens to our emissions. But ultimately, Australia are still some of the worst consumers in terms of the scale of consumption of things like fashion,
Yeah,
food
right.
waste in the world. We punch so hard above our way, above our level when it comes to those sorts of things. We live as if there's enough resources in the world for four times the amount that there
Is
is
that
for
right?
Australians. We
Why
we
do you
punch.
think that is? Do you
I'm
have an
not
idea, a thought on that?
Look, I mean, part of it is because we are so far away from the rest of the world, and that, things that come to us from overseas have an impact that
Yeah.
maybe, is significantly more. But I think we are, a large percentage of us are really privileged. We are a really wealthy nation, even though some of us don't often feel that. And I just think we've got great systems that keep us in with a great quality of life. And it's easy to assume that, if you stick something in the bin, if you get rid of it, it's all good. It's a
Yeah.
kind of out of sight, out of mind. And I think it takes us to really understand that that just consumption decision that we make each day has a lot of flow-on impacts to how
Mm.
much we pay for things, and things like uh, access for other people to food. I mean, our food waste problem is contributing to our food insecurity problem for other people, and it's leading to inflationary prices in our supply chain, which make our grocery prices higher. And they're all solvable if we slow down and use more of what we have in better ways. And I just think Australians have to have a really good hard look at how we live our lives. I think everyone does, but I
Yeah.
think I would love that to continue. And I don't believe that we have really cracked that after COVID.
That's really interesting. I had never thought of that actually. That's very interesting. And really, this is what should be taught in schools.
And look, I think schools do a great job. I often hear that about, schools need to talk about the climate crisis. I honestly think our kids understand this better than most of us.
Yeah, good
Uh,
point.
and I think they do teach it in geography. There is discussion of these things in science. And I think, we just have to start to unpack that these are systemic issues,
Mm.
and there's systemic problems with systemic solutions.
Yeah.
And whether we like it or not, those solutions include what we do at home, how we lead in our businesses, in our work, and
Yeah.
how we advocate for our leaders to do more as well. And everything we do has to contribute on those three levels. And anyone who says that it doesn't matter what you do at home doesn't understand that, the biggest issue we're going to have with the climate crisis is this scope of emissions, which are scope 3, which are the emissions that are kind of created by all the things we buy, all the things, all the emissions that are embedded in the stuff that we have. And it does come back to the fact that it has got a little bit out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great conversation for people. I'm not wanting to collapse the economy and everyone to stop buying things, but I would love us to look at things with a newfound respect and, just use what we have a little better.
Yeah. Just question your decisions, I suppose, before you actually do it, maybe. And yeah, look
Yeah.
at things through a different lens, which is great. And that's why we're talking to you, because hopefully it will make people think differently. So back to Good for the Hood. We all know that leading a purpose-driven organization comes with its highs and lows. Walk us through some of the peaks and troughs of building and running Good for the Hood. And I'm sure there are a few.
Yeah, I mean, you've touched on COVID. That was really tough because we were doing a lot of events-based work. So it suddenly meant that we weren't doing that. We had to go online and didn't really have a convincing offer and service we did some online sessions, but
Yep.
it was really tough because it meant that, we were trying to do what we'd done before, but online, and it was hard. So
Yeah.
the good thing now is that I think it's built a level of resilience in because we do have an offer that is entirely online. So if there's
Awesome.
another pandemic or anything, we're ready. And look, it's just that we've seen an opportunity to scale what we do. I don't want to travel around Australia to present a workshop on emissions and contribute further through
Yep.
my flights and and it does feel like a really ineffective way to reach more people.
Mm.
So I reach a lot more people through our online programs, and that's been a way that we can get into people's homes, around Australia. We work with councils across the country.
Mm.
I think one of the challenges is cash flow. I think
Yep.
making sure that at any one time you have enough money coming in to pay people for me it's at times it's feast or famine. So it feels like, oh, we're all good. And then, you just have to really plan out the financial strategy so that that kind of flows across the year and getting pretty good at that. But it has taken some tough times and some really anxiety provoking times to go,
For
hang on,
sure.
how am I going to make this work when, I know that invoices aren't going to get paid. And I've had some real challenges with being paid on time
Mm.
by some big companies. And it's been really hard to be a little company and small businesses particularly struggle with cash flow. I know that anyone who's done it says, oh, no, that's a universal thing.
Yeah.
So look, it's been about that. I think a lot of it has just having some faith that I'm doing well,
Yep.
that these are all normal experiences for anyone, and that it says nothing about me as a founder or a leader.
Yep.
It says nothing about my capabilities or my courage or my, competence.
Mm.
These are just the reality of doing something like this. And sure, I could give up tomorrow and go and get an easier job, but I also get so much out of this. And
Mm.
I think recognizing that is what's keeping me going after 6 years.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And that's so spot on. I mean, we're on this planet for a small amount of time, really, in the grand scheme of things, and making an impact and leaving a legacy and doing something you love.
Mm.
Obviously, you've just done that in a nutshell. So I think it's really important. Well done, you. You just touched on the financial side of things. Do you actually receive any funding at all?
No, we don't. So when I first started, I had the decision of making Good for the Hood do we become a not-for-profit?
Yeah.
What's our structure? And I spoke to a lot of people who had started not-for-profits. Now, I don't have a business background. I hadn't worked at a senior level in a not-for-profit before. I had worked, as a senior manager in private companies, and I had worked in the public sector.
Yep.
but it was alien to me to go into a not-for-profit sector. And it scared me.
Yeah.
Think it scared me mostly because I felt like you were putting yourself in a position of trust that you were going to manage this so well that every dollar that comes through your organization is going to be, providing benefit and impact where you say it should. And, obviously that's what I want to do, but I could see the demands on, reporting and just the stresses on
Yeah.
my friends and colleagues who had done that. So someone gave me good advice and said, if you've never run a business, you shouldn't run a charity. And I know there are people who do run charities very well and they haven't done that. So, but I did feel like running a business is great preparation for anything else. It gives you just the most, crash course in every aspect of governance, financial management, leading, human resources, paying bills. It just,
Yeah.
you get everything. And I think it felt like a better structure to learn those things. And if I fail, I failed on my watch. I
Yeah.
haven't wasted anyone's money. And so we have at times been able to apply for some small grants.
Yeah.
A lot of grants are for not-for-profits, as they should be. And, and often grants will fund, capital, things so that actual things that you can, tangible things that you can put your hand on,
Yeah. Yeah.
not people's wages.
Mm.
And, when you're running a business, and often the challenge is, paying the bills, which often include wages. So I knew that we had to set up services which would fund the work. And for the first few years, it was really part-time. I had to still work to do that. But it reached a point where, we had an offering that was able to be scaled. And over that time, we found that, that sweet spot of financial sustainability. And to be honest, a direction where we can build on that. And that's been really hard fought. Lots of advice, lots of, looking at what other people do and what works. But yeah, I am glad that we went with the small business structure with a social enterprise focus. We are a mission-led and for-purpose organisation. But yeah, it did feel like for my skill set and where we were at the time, it was the best.
Gosh, it's a journey. I'm sure if you look back now on day one of Good for the Hood compared to where you are now, you'd see a completely different Jo, wouldn't you?
Oh, I think that's the other beautiful thing about it is that you grow as the
Mm,
organization grows. And look, you probably wouldn't do this stuff if you realized what you're going to go through, would you? I
100%.
mean,
No way.
I often look at it and go, oh gosh, but at the same time, I look at who I was before, and if I hadn't, so much of my life would be different.
Yeah.
And I know that the things that have come out of this in terms of my own personal growth are things that I could never have achieved unless I had maybe put myself up for a senior leadership position
Mm.
and really threw myself in the deep end in the roles that I was in before. I have just had to get a level of confidence that I don't know that I would have got in anywhere else. So I've become quite fearless, Kate.
Yeah, that's good. I think we all need a piece of Jo to get through the week, don't we? No,
Oh,
that's great. So you've learned, so you work with alongside and with a lot of people on a day-to-day basis, week in, week out. What have you learned about people and purpose and persistence through your journey with Good for the Hood?
yeah, I think I've learned that you have to really find some joy in all of this,
Yep.
Kate. People ask me how I keep going when you're dealing with something like the climate crisis, because it is disheartening, it's relentless, it's slow.
Mm,
Change and progress is slow. It's anxiety provoking. The news can cause you to collapse.
yep.
Decisions of leaders can make you think, oh my gosh, what are we doing?
Yep.
It's infuriating and people burn out. And so I have been spending a lot of time thinking about what it is that keeps people going in roles around activism and impact work. And I strongly believe that there is a role for joy. And I've become a bit obsessed with how to use joy as like a strategic choice in the work that you do. And people are like, well, what do you mean about finding joy? It's tough. Like you can't find joy when you're dealing with such horrible things. There's a beautiful quote that I thought I'd share. It comes out of another crisis um, in our lifetime. And I remember, if you remember the 80s and the period of the AIDS crisis that we were seeing
Yes.
globally.
Yep.
And there's a quote from an activist called Dan Savage who talks about, during the darkest days of the AIDS crisis, we buried our friends in the morning, we protested in the afternoon, and we danced all night. And the dance was what kept us in the fight because it was the dance that we were fighting for.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think there's something about using parts of the challenge and the movement to keep you going. And so I do things every now and then to just remind me how bloody great it is to be able to do these things. It might
Mm.
be something a bit silly. It might be something I've never done before. It might be to align with other people that make me feel alive. And in my work day to day, I make sure that there are things that make me feel like I'm getting something out of this in a really positive way. So, it might be immersing myself in nature because that is what reminds me why I do this work.
Mm.
It's playing music that I love. It's wearing a hoodie all day if that's what makes me feel comfortable or
Yep.
safe. It's having my dogs with me as much as possible. It's wearing what I want to wear when I want to wear it. It's
Mm.
just things that remind me that I have a freedom in this work and there's a lot of joy. And this work is me.
Yep.
At the end of the day, when you're a founder, it's very hard to separate your identity from what you've created.
Yeah.
And so, uh, why not have a lot of fun with it? Because at the end of the day, it's kind of you on paper. Um,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I feel like the people that I know that are having the most success also know how to balance it out with a fair amount of joy.
I love that. It's so powerful and so tangible too, isn't it? As you said, when you identify what they are, those small things, you go, everyone can do that.
Yeah. And you
It's,
need to. You
yeah.
need to because it's tough out there, as we all know.
Mm. But it's recognizing it, isn't it? And
Mm.
just sort of being made aware of it.
And I think
And then,
giving yourself permission to, Kate, a lot of people I know, when you're working in a space of sacrifice or, um, service, it feels like it's wrong to actually also enjoy the work because this is so serious and so important and people's lives are at risk and
mm,
but also reminding ourselves of why this is so beautiful and special, it keeps us in the game.
yeah, I love that. Now you just touched on that quote, which I think is so powerful, and I'm going to get that from you afterwards. Um, has there been anyone? I'm wondering if that person is the your person, but I talk a lot about with my guests about people who've inspired them, their fellow glitter kings and queens. Has there been anyone or anyone in your journey, a few people who have inspired you to be who you are today?
Yeah, there's two that I've met and one that I haven't met, but I want to meet. Can
Okay.
I have three? Is that too
You
many?
can have as many as you want.
So so one is Ronnie Khan, the founder of Oz Harvest.
Yep.
I've had the privilege of meeting Ronnie really early on in the work, and she was one of those people that I just wanted to stand near and stare at in a really weird, creepy way because I just felt, oh my gosh, you're such a beacon of light and good and kindness and generosity. And the first time I saw her spoke, she cried during her
Wow.
speech. And it was just so heartfelt. And it's really, I think, beautiful for women to see women lead with such heart.
Mm.
And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, like I just want to bottle what you have. I've had the absolute pleasure of interviewing Ronnie, as my career sort of moved along, and I just adore not just who she is, but the impact she has made with Oz Harvest. It's one of the most impactful charities we have in
Mm,
Australia. It has absolutely tried to change the conversation, the dignity, and the policy around food waste.
yeah.
And, I have no doubt that she will reshape, Australia's approach to food waste.
Mm.
So she's one of them. The other is Costa Georgiadis. So Costa from Gardening Australia or Costa the Garden Gnome, depending on how old you are. Costa is another person that I've had the absolute joy of meeting, and anyone who works in the environmental space will have met Costa at some point. And this man has an absolute gift at letting you be the most important person in the room while you talk to him.
Mm.
He gives of himself in ways that, most people would struggle to. He's generous, he's buoyant, he listens, and yet he's just an absolute Aussie larrikin as well. And I think his authenticity and joy, and also just approachableness when it comes to environmental issues, enables him to be a really great advocate for all these issues. And he gets people involved, and the way he interacts with kids is amazing. And the final one is a drag artist from the US
Hmm.
called Patty Gonia. Now, Patty is an activist who is also a singer and performer.
Yeah.
But Patty's work, if you go and check her out on Instagram, is all about climate activism and access to natural spaces for across different sectors. So it's intersectionality, making sure that trans and LGBTIQ plus people have access to natural spaces, which sounds ridiculous, but
Mm.
when you look at the plight of what Patty's talking about, it hasn't always been that people have been encouraged, included, or felt
Mm.
safe in that space. And then, of course, with what's happening in the US at the moment, just a really amazing voice in a space where, marginalized people and the environment are under attack. And Patty talks about the role of joy and using it, and drag artists have often used joy to enable protest and to be part of that. So
Yep.
again, just someone I really, really, really want to meet. And
Mm.
my vision is to bring Patty to Australia to perform at the Opera House. So
Wow.
I keep saying it out loud because it's happening, and I need to just say it more times so that I'm committed to it. But yeah, that's
Well,
my job.
let's hope she listens to the glitter effect, and then
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you can and invite me along when she does.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, it's a cross between Climate Action Week and Pride in Sydney, and we can make it
Yeah.
happen.
Amazing. Oh, that's so good. Now we're coming to the end. If anyone who is listening wants to make a difference in their neighborhood, their school, their sports club, workplace, their local community, but doesn't actually know where to start, what's one small action they could take today to start spreading their glitter?
So I think I'm going to give you something super simple, and the reason I'm focusing on this and nothing else at the moment is that I've just heard some stats around this week, and I think it'll be in the press by the time this podcast's out. That 60% of Australians have lived next door to someone for more than 6 months and they don't know them. So my ask is that you introduce yourself to one of your neighbours.
Mm.
Why that's so important is threefold. Firstly, when things go wrong in your community, your neighbour is the person you want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So you want them to keep an eye out on for you. The amount of times that neighbours have been the person to respond in an emergency, in a domestic violence incident,
Mm.
in a fire, a flood, an injured dog, a sick bird, a broken down car. You need these people in your life. It's like getting to know your local GP or your vet. Like it just should be in your toolkit of people that you have.
Mm.
And people don't know their neighbours in Australia as much as they used to.
Mm.
We're really good at connecting online, but we haven't really on that. The second reason why it's really important that you know your neighbours is because we know that loneliness and disconnection from our community has huge health impacts.
Yep.
So just simply knowing that person by name, that you can wave at them, that might be theirs or your only social connection, particularly for new mums, people going through other crises. There's something really important about just little micro moments with people in your local area.
Mm.
And the third reason is that it might be the start of something else. So we know that there are things in the sustainability space about the solar effect.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get solar panels on your roof, your neighbours are more likely to get them.
Yeah.
So if you start doing some things and there are going to be some ripples of potential impact, the better your relationship with those people around you, the more likely they are to adopt those sorts of habits and behaviour change as well. So we can influence the world in very gentle and non-threatening ways, but you've got to start with a relationship first.
That's spot on. I love that. That is so simple, so easy to do. And it is the essence of what the glitter effect is about. It's trying to encourage people to do things that are doable. It doesn't take time. And that everyone can do that. So
It's so easy.
I
If
may
you're
just
really shy and a real introvert and you find that this has just piqued your social anxiety, pop a little note in the letterbox first.
Yep.
And just say, hi, I'm this person. I live at number whatever. I might pop by and say hi at some point. I'm just reaching out first, because then you've got something to say to them when you knock on the door, if that's the moment.
Yep.
Or it might be that they actually see you or seek you out next time. It does help a little bit.
Yeah. It's just breaking down that barrier, isn't it?
It is, because it's
So
awkward.
it
You've
is
been there for
awkward.
longer than 6 months. You're probably feeling like, oh gosh, it's too late now to introduce myself.
That's it. That's such good advice. Thank you, Jo. Now, before we go, how can people find out more about the amazing work you do and Good for the Hood?
It's super easy. So at Good for the Hood is the handle on Instagram or Facebook, or you can go to goodforthehood.com.au. You can search up your postcode so you can see what programs we have in your area. Join our mailing list, and yeah, we'll keep you posted with what's good in your hood.
Amazing. Jo, thank you so, so much for joining me on the Glitter Effect today. I've just loved hearing everything about your journey and everything, your story, your passion, your relentless drive to create better, more connected communities. A truly, truly, truly inspiring, and something that you should be proud of. We need lots more of you across the world. The way you empower people to realize that they can be part of the solution and that their small actions actually really do matter is the very essence of the glitter effect. So your work just simply reminds us that change doesn't have to be overwhelming. It just has to begin. And what you're doing is exactly that. Thank you so much for sharing your glitter with us today. It's raining glitter on this Zoom call, I can assure you. I know it will inspire others to shine just as brightly in their own communities. And I really look forward to seeing what the future holds for you and Good for the Hood, and wish you all the very best. Thank you for your time.
Kate. Sprinkle away.
I love that. Take care. Speak soon. Thank you for joining me, Kate Ganneil, on The Glitter Effect. If you've loved this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep showing up, making an impact, and sprinkling that glitter wherever you go. Bye for now.